Okay. So it's actually quite appropriate that I'm following Michelle, because Michelle and Department of Public Health have been really instrumental in helping to guide the work that we've been doing as the Food Policy Council as we've created our Good Food Purchasing Guidelines. And I'm very excited to present to all of you because the way that we define our food shed actually encompasses all of the counties represented here. So our food shed is a 200-mile, 10-county region. So I'll be talking about the Good Food Purchasing Policy, which is a policy that was developed through a pretty extensive multi-stakeholder process and is beginning to get a lot of traction here locally, as well as from cities across the country and national food service providers and a variety of stakeholders. It's been regarded as one of the most comprehensive metric-based policies in the country right now. So I'll give you some background.
I'm just gonna get our screen sharing back up. It looks like it's crashed. So just go forward.
I'll just keep moving.
There. Yeah.
I'm gonna give you some background on the policy. Yeah. And the slides are not rocket science, so we're not missing anything. I'll give you background, summarize the values that the policy supports, and how we chose the ones that we did. I'll walk you through our scoring process and tell you about how we got the policy adopted and now some of the early implementation steps that we've taken and a couple of early successes that we've seen. So there's a quote that you can see it in your packets, but it's from a sustainable food movement leader that works for a national food service company, Bon Appetit Management, and she's basically saying that when large purchasers make food purchasing demands from their suppliers, whether or not the supply is there, the vendors will respond and supply chain participants will figure out how to get the food that you want. And at the same time, this is helping to transform individuals, the environment, and our economy. So the Good Food Purchasing Pledge is
it not hearing you? Sorry.
Not hearing me, no problem. Is a commitment from food service institutions to improve our region's food system through the adoption and implementation of the Good Food Purchasing Guidelines, which is this document here I can pass around later if you'd like. It emphasizes 5 key values: local economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and nutrition. And the policy targets institutions with food budgets over $1 million. The guidelines are structured similarly to LEED certification, and I'll walk you through that process in a minute. The policy was developed by the Los Angeles Food Policy Council, which is a collective impact initiative working to build a good food system for all Los Angeles residents where food's healthy, affordable, fair, and sustainable. It's being incubated by the Office of Mayor Villaraigosa. And we are leveraging right now our unique structure. We're an independent multi-stakeholder initiative, but we have full support of the mayor's office. So we bring stakeholders together to advance innovative food policies. Our structure, I think, is somewhat similar to the Public Health Alliance in that we have a Food Policy Council, which is similar to your Leadership Council. Dr. Simon is on that leadership group. And it's a group of about 40 food system experts from various sectors and issue areas. And our Food Policy Council staff and our Leadership Council help to guide 8 different working groups. And our food procurement guidelines came out of one of those working groups. So the working groups are an extended network. I think we have 200 people who are really actively involved, and then somewhere between 700 people who come in and out of our bi-monthly meetings. So the working group spent about 2 years working on this policy. We had staff support to help guide the process. It was a collaboration of several different nonprofit organizations, Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. Michelle was instrumental, and we worked with several local businesses, including farmers, distributors, value-added processors, and then we worked with major food purchasers like San Diego Unified School District, Los Angeles Unified School District was also active, and hospitals. To begin our process, we looked at what other jurisdictions were doing, and through our research, we learned that everyone is doing something. A lot of really exciting work is being done. Most of what we found is that cities or institutions are focused on either local sourcing or nutrition. But because of the multi-stakeholder working group that we had, we expanded from there. We took the best practices and expanded. So from the start, the working group decided that if we wanted to really change our food system through our food purchasing patterns, we should address the entirety of the system, because the way that we're produced not only has health impacts, it has environmental and economic impacts as well. So these are the 5 value categories that we decided to lift up in the policy, and I'll spend just a few minutes talking through why we selected those priorities and also some of the interconnections. So the first value category is local economies. And today, most of our food, I'm sure you know, is produced from a small number of very large farms. And as the food industry has be more consolidated, large retailers and major food service companies are demanding high-volume products year-round. And so only the largest growers have really been able to keep up with that type of demand. Small and mid-sized farmers have been unable to compete in the global market. Many of them are selling off their land to developers. This not only drains the local economy, but it contributes to sprawl and it threatens prime agricultural lands. And in California, we lose about 40,000 acres in prime agricultural lands each year. Our second value is environmental sustainability. The shift towards large-scale farming has been incredibly destructive to our environment. Agriculture is actually one of the top contributors of global greenhouse gas emissions. Much of that is coming from on-farm production. It's also a top contributor to air and water pollution. And agriculture consumes about 80% of the state's water. Pollution from agricultural fertilizers, pesticides, and animal waste are the #1 biggest source of groundwater contamination in our state. And many small communities in the agricultural counties have been left without safe drinking water supply. Food's also the largest single source of waste in California. We selected a valued workforce as another category. Our food system employs about 20 million workers nationally, or 1 in 7 jobs locally. But the Department of Labor reported that 7 out of the 10 worst-paying jobs in the country are actually in the food system. Food system workers suffer from food insecurity and use food stamps at a higher rate than the general workforce. And farm worker towns in Central Valley have some of the highest rates of obesity and poverty in the country. Fresno County is, I think, one of the top. Widespread pesticide use is also a huge problem for the workers, farmers, and agricultural communities. Our fourth value, no problem, is animal welfare. The slide on the screen shows the concentration of livestock farming in California, large factory farms. It's very high, particularly in Southern California. And the confinement of livestock in gestation crates and other forms of factory farms has resulted in high-stress environments and illness and generally inhumane conditions for the livestock. But this extends much beyond humane treatment of animals. It's a public health issue. It's an environmental issue. Livestock production accounts for about 18% of global greenhouse emissions, and as I mentioned before, groundwater contamination from animal waste is a huge problem across this state. And of course, the routine use of antibiotics to treat livestock on factory farms has contributed to growing antibiotic-resistant bacteria that can cause human infection. Antibiotic use in livestock production has quadrupled over the last 4 decades, and now over 70% of all antibiotics used in the country are going towards livestock. There's an excerpt at the bottom here from the UCSF Medical Senate, Academic Senate, and it's a resolution that they passed urging the food service cafeteria to eliminate the use of non-therapeutic antibiotic meat, and also urging all UC campuses to do the same. And then our final value is you're the experts here, so I don't want to say too much about it other than highlighting the irony of the fact that we live next to the most productive agricultural lands, particularly fruits and vegetables, yet in LA County, I'm not sure of your statistics, but over 1 million people suffer from food insecurity, and we have desperately high rates of obesity and diet-related diseases impacting the poorest communities and communities of color.
And a lot of food waste.
So much food waste. So much wasted. So that was the downer. What can be done about these daunting problems? Our working group spent a long time developing guidelines with a pretty sophisticated scoring system that attempted to address the spectrum of these issues. So it's similar to LEED certification, I told you. We established a tiered points-based system which allows participants to choose which level of commitment they want for their organization. And to become a good food purchaser, a baseline level is met across the 5 categories. So you get 1 point for meeting a baseline, you get 2 points for level 2, and 3 points for level 3. Then we score up across all 5 categories, and participants are awarded between 1 and 5 stars. And to maintain the star rating over time, you're expected to gradually increase your good food purchases. So this is just a quick example of how it works. In the local economy section, we're basically asking, there are different ways to get your baseline point, but essentially a purchaser is expected to purchase 15% of their total food budget from farms of any size within 200 miles. And then you get extra points for buying, you get 2 points for buying 15% of your food from farms that are medium size within 200 miles, and we use the USDA definition of medium, large, medium, small. And then you get 3 points for purchasing 15% of your food from farms, small farms within the 200-mile radius. The environmental sustainability category, we look to existing third-party certifications and USDA, FDA claims like antibiotic-free, and we ranked certifications. We spent a long time with these rankings. And I should just note that our Los Angeles Unified School District passed a Meatless Monday resolution a couple of months ago, which means that they're not serving meat in their cafeterias on Mondays, and so they get extra points in our policy. The value.
Are they the largest that have adopted it?
They are. They're the largest food purchaser in the city and second largest in the state next to the prison system.
Wow.
Yeah. They serve 650,000 meals a day. So our valued workforce category is the baseline level is that our vendors are to sign in writing that their suppliers are following basic labor law. Then the second levels that we're actually incentivizing purchases from farms that have social responsibility policies, and then the higher level is worker cooperatives, union farms, et cetera. Animal welfare is very similar to the environmental sustainability category, and then the nutrition guidelines were developed by the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, and it's a checklist of 25 items. For a baseline level, the institution is supposed to meet 13 out of the 25 items. So moving on to the policy adoption process. In October, the City of LA became the first entity in Los Angeles to adopt the policy. That was through an executive directive and also a city council motion. And then in November, Los Angeles Unified School District became the largest food purchaser to adopt the policy. And recently we had 2 private cafeterias. We weren't looking for them, but they came to us. One of them is GoodFoodLA. And so we're working with institutions that serve about 750,000 meals a day. This is an excerpt from the mayor's executive directive. It's basically directing departments with food budgets over $10,000 to sign the pledge and work with the Food Policy Council to establish their plans and meet their baseline, that baseline commitment level within a year. Excuse me, these were our supporters. You can see that publicly endorsed the policy and wrote letters of support. You can see it's a pretty great cross-section of issue areas. We had about 100 people review our document across the country and locally, and we also held a series of focus groups and met with city staff several times to make sure this was something they felt comfortable adopting. So this is a really crazy slide talking through how we got it done. And basically, the way we were able to get this policy passed so quickly was really attributed to the hybrid nature of our Food Policy Council and the inside-outside strategy that we're leveraging. Our relationship to the mayor's office was critical. The mayor's senior food policy advisor is Paula Daniels. She's also the founding chair of our Food Policy Council, and she was actively involved in the creation of the policy and helped to champion it from the inside. And because of this connection, we moved really fast through the City Council, and then also with LAUSD, it was really helpful to say that the mayor's office supported this. And now with implementation, it's even more important that we have some leverage to bring the departments to the table and to get their suppliers to come to the table as well. The Food Policy Council relationship was also critical. We're all about building relationships across the food system. We had LAUSD's food service director. He's on our leadership council. He heard the presentation from the working group last summer, and he loved it. And he actually took it to the school board and asked one of the school board members to initiate the policy process. So he's been a huge champion. And having Dr. Simon involved and the LA County Department of Public Health's development of the nutrition guidelines and their seal of approval on the nutrition guidelines was critical as well. And the nonprofits that we had involved with their issue area expertise and also their external credibility and their ability to help us build a broad coalition was really key. And we needed that when we went to the City Council to show that we had this, pretty extensive support. So just to close with implementation, these are the steps taken for the departments from adoption through implementation. Right now we're working with departments to assess their baseline food purchases and to develop their sourcing goals for the next 5 years. And purchasers are working with their vendors to submit a 3-month inventory of their food purchasing records. And we're asking them to go all the way to the farm level with their purchasing records. And this is a huge feat because no one is tracking this type of information. And we've had a lot of conversations with the processors, the distributors. We're giving everyone a headache, but we're getting it done. At the same time, our staff is developing an online database of all the farms in Southern California, and we're beginning to rank them by the value categories and the levels, and we hope to do the whole state eventually, and this could be a great collaborative opportunity. We formed a technical advisory committee, and Michelle's an active member of that. We're working with University of Wisconsin-Madison. They have a USDA grant, and they're helping us with developing evaluation tools, and we're bringing together a multidisciplinary committee of university researchers to help us measure some long-term impacts. And then we will have a celebratory recognition event at City Council. We'll present to City Council in October and then also recognize the institutions involved. Just quickly, this is an excerpt from Department of Water and Power, and this is our first success that we've seen in terms of translating the procurement policy into contractual language. It asks a condition of receiving the contract is for the vendor to sign the pledge and participate in the process with us. And also in the RFP process, they need to submit a plan for how they'll meet their baseline level across the 5 categories. And then to close, we have, I just wanted to lift up the work that Los Angeles Unified School District is doing for a moment. And they've been a leader on menu change and sourcing for many years across the country, really. And we often hear about their menu changes, but I wanted to highlight a really exciting example that they're actually having in their supply chain. And this is on the right-hand side. It's an excerpt from a press release that I received from one of their key vendors. And it's the vendor is now producing whole grain buns with reduced sodium, no high fructose corn syrup, and this is all because LAUSD demanded it. But not only are the ingredients changing, but so are the farming practices for the ingredients. So now all buns are made from 100% sustainable California-grown wheat flour, and participating California farms are required to use sustainable farming practices, including water conservation, air quality management, habitat preservation, workplace, and worker rights. And it's really the first time I've seen any mention of worker rights in something like this, which is pretty transformational. Yeah. So we're very excited. You know, we've heard David Binkle is the food service director, and on the left-hand side are some statistics he's given us. He was able to both increase the amount of produce that they purchased and source 70% of the produce locally and not increase costs at all. Some of that was because they changed the way that they structured their RFP process. But I think also because there's just such a large purchaser that they don't face the same impacts that smaller institutions might. But you know, he's still buying produce from pretty large farms. So a lot of times it's going to be the same price regardless of where he's in California. Most of the produce that people are buying is from California, so an incremental shift might not be that big of a deal.
Is he also working, I thought I read he's working with other school districts to help them band together?
Exactly. I was just about to mention the Urban School Food Alliance. So he's working with the 6 largest school districts in the country, and they're trying to leverage their buying power to change supply chains. And I think they have different working groups. David is on the marketing committee. They have, because they're trying to have a unified message, but they're working on plate waste and biodegradable chicken sourcing.
Looking at the big food categories like bulk purchasing around chicken. So I think they're working with Tyson Chicken, and yeah, it's a really innovative. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this around the country.
It's really
top 5 urban school districts: New York City, Miami-Dade, Florida, Chicago,
Houston,
yeah.
Philadelphia, and I don't know.
Is San Diego involved?
I don't know.
Are they in San Diego?
Okay, so that's sort of the parallel. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. And what's interesting is that LAUSD's former food service director is now the director at New York schools. So they've been working together for decades, David and Dennis. It's kind of interesting.
I just want to congratulate the Food Policy Council. Paula and Alexa and the her staff are just incredible leaders. I feel like our county should be adopting this. What has held us back is a fear. We've already pushed our county departments. They feel like they're stretching to add these additional things so quickly. I'm worried we get pushback, but this is where we should be going because it's good for public health.
Yeah.
Thank you. We were a little bit worried with the mayoral transition, but I think we have an even bigger opportunity now with the next mayor to. This will be a priority. I mean, we had a lot of internal leadership from the former mayor, or I guess he's the acting mayor right now, but it was never a top priority for Mayor Villaraigosa. But I think Mayor-elect Garcetti could really play a huge leadership role.
Didn't he carry the motion? Or?
No, but he might have been a co-signer, but their office was very helpful in getting it through. So.
Thank you.